the video. So welcome. Thank you very much for trusting me with your carbon accounting journey, a learning which you will remember at least in professional life because it will help you to conquer an area. And if you practice this area, definitely it will help you to excel in this field. What we are covering is following 6 module, which we have discussed yesterday as well. And we will start with the basics. Then we will go into inventory management learning. Then we will go into scope 3 emission and target setting discussions, GHG mitigation strategy, climate action disclosure, final examination. Now, people like Rajniji, who has already attended this program in past format, which was, I think, 5 or 7 days, will have an additional advantage. At least they know the broader area. But she will be even surprised to see that we have improvised more than 70% of the curricula in last 3 months. So you will be surprised to see that. And why? Why? Because we have added a lot of content. We have added a lot of calculations, new case studies, as well as recent happening in GHG protocol. Because our program is based on GHG protocol, we make sure that our program also gets updated the moment they update certain regulations and rules there. Anyway, I have started the program yesterday by asking you to imagine a building, a house, right? Where you start with the foundation first. The digging happens for the longest period of time, which creates a nuisance in neighborhood whenever you see somebody has started constructing their house. And that's what module 1 is all about. It will take little time. It builds slowly, but once it will be built, you can build 100-story building on top of that. Why? Because understanding of basics like climate change, greenhouse gases, their characteristics, and how they can be converted into inventory, GHG inventory, and thereby you can prepare a solid, robust mitigation strategy in order to control your carbon footprint is the name of game. The term greenhouse effect was coined in 1824, just for a fun fact, yeah, by Joseph Fourier. Have you heard Fourier theorem or Fourier calculations in mathematics?
I hear, but I forgot.
Of course, everybody, even if you ask me, I don't know Fourier formula, but we have used in our 10th and 12th examination. And the same guy also has created this greenhouse effect concept at that point in time in 1824. Quite amazing time, right? Who compared Earth atmosphere to a glass box. That time, even this plastic sheet greenhouses were not available all across world. So you can understand, right? It is just a pre-industrialized era. And he compared at that point in time Earth atmosphere to glass box. That's the fun fact. If you remember, you can always show yourself in front of others. But let's go into session coverage. So session coverage, of course, module 1 is all about climate change basic. We will try to understand the fundamental principle of the climate change, comprehend the cause, effect, and scientific consensus surrounding the climate change, grasping the global and national emission landscape, analyze current trend, key contributor to this climate change, and regional disparity in greenhouse gas emission, and how they in affect your national determined contribution, NDC, which is a part of Paris Agreement 2015 or COP21, Conference of Party 21. Gain insights into international climate agreement, where we will start with the Paris Agreement quickly. Then we will go inside NDCs. And there is a module completely where we will be looking into 3 different countries or national, systems which we need to learn. And other global initiative also will be covering when we will be talking about mitigation climatic change. So Denmark and Costa Rica will again appear, but in different format and different outlook. Now, climate change and greenhouse fundamental, we have already started on yesterday, day 1 of 11-day bootcamp now, where we have asked you that, did you know that CO2 emission hit a record 36.8 billion metric ton in 2023 itself? Only CO2 emissions I'm talking about. No, I'm not talking about rest of the gases. Okay. If you add them all, we have already seen that number has crossed 55 billion carbon dioxide equivalent in the world, where China is leading with 13.6, and then India is also there. But I have also already justified the cause for India. Today, we will unravel that science behind these numbers, where we will start with the weather and climate, which we have already learned. We have also looked into the climate change and its definition and how the climate change is produced by emission of greenhouse gases, mostly by CO2, because the largest portion is still held by the CO2, and concentration of these gases in atmosphere, global impact of the same, and how increasing the planet's temperature actually creates the global warming, rise in sea level, and reduction of Arctic ice. Now, measuring and managing GHG emission is how we combat the climate change. That's why we need to deploy greenhouse gas accounting, right? So that's the reason, and that's why you will master in this boot camp. This is what you will master in this boot camp. Now let's learn another concept, and let me ask you a question. What do you understand by climate change and pollution? Yesterday we learned weather and climate, right? Today I want to see how many of you can differentiate well enough climate change and pollution. Quickly, go ahead, anyone. What's the difference between pollution and climate change? Yes, Kasika, go ahead.
Pollution is usually caused by like nitrous oxide, sulfur oxide, whereas greenhouse gases are different, which cause the climate change, like creation of that solar cooker that we just talked about.
Very good.
And the effects are different, like climate change uh, is also causing the long term change in the weather that we talked about, whereas pollution is also leading to some of the health hazards that we are facing. For example, the infection that we has increased and that we usually face with the weather change that is happening.
Absolutely. True. Anybody else wants to go ahead?
Pollution basically disturbance of the atmosphere or what is right in that place. It's a disturbance of the atmosphere, and climate change is a gradual shift in the patterns.
Okay. Very good. Anybody else wants to go ahead? This is your class. More you will interact, learning will be much, much higher. Go ahead. Try it. Even though it is basic, doesn't
Well,
matter.
climate change is something happening at a broader perspective for a longer duration. If the things change, keep on happening, then the climate change happens.
Perfect.
Whereas the pollution can be a localized kind of a thing, climate change is a broader perspective. Of course, this temperature rise and rise in the water level is a climate change. While Delhi's this smog and etc. is a pollution.
Daily smog is the pollution. Absolutely correct. But you have also added the previous concept, which was weather. Weather is a localized event. Pollution also is a localized event. That's why we measure into AQI system. Um, Anybody knows the full form of AQI? You must have seen in Delhi roads all the time. It's blinking more than 400 and says,
Air quality index.
Air quality
very
index,
good.
right?
So that's how you measure the pollution. Why? Because you measure in terms of particle per million. Okay. Another thing, just because all of you have taken 2 days session, and if you have not, you should take. You are aware about, uh, you know, um, carbon dioxide equivalent, right? Data. Now, remember one more fact, which we will be using anyway. You will learn it automatically, but I'm just giving you a hint. Specifically this HFC, PFC, the greenhouse gases which are on the bottom has the highest GWP. Today we are going to cover that. Has another parameter to measure, and their units are little different than CO2 and methane. Always check that because they are mostly in terms of particle per billion or trillion. Okay. While CO2 AQI index, you will always find into ppm, which is particles per million. Now, just to give you a vivid picture of the same. If somebody had joined, and you should join from your laptop going forward, how many of you have joined from laptop? Just put yes in chat box, so I know you will be able to imagine it properly. Okay, Tanmay is doing from laptop. Good. Ravindran is from laptop. Rajat, Paresh, even Mahima is from laptop. I recommend always join from laptop. First of all, you can do calculations parallelly. Second of all the quizzes which we run, it becomes easier for you to attempt. So whoever has not joined from laptop, I recommend join from laptop. Now, if you are watching your laptop, generally laptop resolution is 4K nowadays. If it is a Mac, etc., it's definitely 4K or 8K. To just give you a vivid picture out of all your screen, just imagine four dots. There is a complete white screen, right, with a small write up. Four dots out of this 4,000 pixel. Yeah, we are talking about means 4,000 by, it's a 1920 1080, right? That's a normal configuration of your pixels. Out of that, only four dots are black. That is what is carbon dioxide. In atmosphere, it's a completely invisible stuff. So carbon dioxide is lethal because it's an invisible monster. Okay, they are always people equate to. So that's what the carbon dioxide is, not the smoke which you see from car and etc. is coming out. Those are part of pollution, which is SOx, NOx, particulate matter. Yeah. So these are, and nowadays, by the way, particulate matter is also a challenging stuff in climate change. There is a blog on our LinkedIn page specifically around this, that how Delhi is not only facing uh, a stubble burning issue of pollution, but also a particulate matter which you are emitting is creating a climatic issue as well. Slowly, it's building up. So we need to be careful going forward. And Kashka was right there. It's caused by atmospheric pollutants. It is localized. It is a localized pollution, is a localized impact, and it has a health hazard, definitely. While climate is caused by greenhouse gases, which can be also part of sometime pollution. Yeah, it do impact even. It's not a good gas to have it. So if you are, try it. If you want to try, do one thing. Just put your, if you have a split AC, put the outside unit inside and test it for a day. Yeah, and then we will meet if we will meet again. So point here is, if there is a leakage happening there, it can become lethal over a period of time. So it is not good gas to have. So even sometime greenhouse gases also becomes a part of pollution. But these gases, if I only consider in isolation, primarily CO2, I'm talking about climate change. So they are the real cause of climate change. And then it has a global impact. It doesn't have a localized impact. That's the second point. Okay. Then you have a global impact. And then third is effects include global warming and rising sea level. Let's see those in real time. Yeah. So first evidence, scientifically, let me talk about evidence of climate change coming from the carbon dioxide level. Now, this graph is, how many of you can believe this graph is prepared by scientists? All of you, right? There is no doubt on that. But do you think we can calculate data up to 800,000 years? How many of you believe that is possible, humanly possible? Put yes in chat box if you believe measuring data in 800,000 of year is possible sitting today. Or can we have that data 800,000 years back when human life was not there? So so I have twofold question. Let me first ask the first question. Do you believe it is humanly possible to collect CO2 data going backwards to 800,000 years, which data is in front of you? Yeah, because this is how, your mind corrupts. This is how your mind corrupts. Slowly it builds. Possible ही नहीं है. 800,000 years का डेटा कौन निकाल के देगा? उस समय तो डायनासोर भी मर गए थे. ऐसे मतलब, you see, this is how it builds into your mind. So anybody who shows you the data without giving you the background, you will always doubt the scientific evidences. And scientific fraternity doesn't care about you, right? Does it care that whether you trust his data or not? He has done triangulation, he has put a hypothesis, he has proven his hypothesis to be correct. His job is done. And then peer reviews it and you get out of the business. But a normal people who are President of America supporter or even sometime my supporter can not trust it. Yeah. So how many of you believe this is humanly possible? Put yes in chat box. Let me have an opinion. Let us be honest with each other that okay, I don't know this, and let me learn this. Because till the time you empty your glass, I cannot put water inside it. Trust me, my whole effort will go to waste. So put yes or no. If you know it is possible, then write it like Tanmay has written it. Right? Humanly possible है कि नहीं है? नहीं है तो no. Possible है तो yes. Let's empty our glass. You might be expert in your field. Yeah. But if you want to learn something new, be honest about it. Okay. So I can see Ravindran has written not possible. Anybody else who thinks maybe possible? Raja's saying maybe possible. By the way, he's a himself mechanical engineer, so he might be trusting all the scientists being correct. So maybe is the right word to use. Okay. आप देखो बीच में नहीं हो सकते हो ना. आप अनम्यूट कर लो, बोल दो नहीं हाँ अगर आप राइट नहीं कर पा रहे हो, आप ट्रैवल कर रहे हो. बट यू कैनॉट बी इन सेंटर. इफ यू विल बी इन सेंटर यू आर नॉट लर्निंग. सो फिर आपका पैसा मैं क्यों लूं? व्हाई आई शुड टेक योर मनी? we are in serious business, right? Want to learn something new. So सीधा बोलिए yes or no. साइलेंट रहने से इस क्लास में कुछ नहीं होने वाला.
It can be
Okay.
basis on the assumption sometime because we can take like average of certain years and then gradually shift towards the calculation and get the data.
Okay. Fair. Could be. Okay, not a bad answer. Okay, Paresh ji believes in this and he says that it is humanly possible. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Mahima is saying possible. Okay. She also believes scientists must be correct. क्योंकि अब मैं पूछने वाला हूँ आपसे why. If you say yes, then
Actually,
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
based on the assumption, or we can, if you go with the popular projection or something, so we got some data from the previous sensors or something. Like us, we can the backward projection, like we know the current data, and based on the current data, we go through the backward projection. So we can got that.
You mean to say simulation?
That is my assumption.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You are saying simulation of the data must have been done. And that's the right approach actually. Okay.
Yes.
That's how any researcher starts with. Any researcher starts with simulation because you can't do something which is humanly not possible. Can I go back or did 800,000 years back there was anybody who was calculating CO2 in the environment? Impossible. It's only 100-year phenomena, right? Till the time from when the weather forecast, weather recording has started, even in India, right? Once mapping of all country has been done, that was 1800 or 19th century. After that, slowly we build it up. Okay, Kasika, go ahead. Your input.
Uh, if I'm not wrong, and I watched one of the documentary wherein they also tried to find out through fossil fuels as well.
Now we are talking radioactive life. How many of
Right.
us learned in our 10th class? We do half-life calculation through
Carb-
radioactivity.
Carbon dating.
Carbon dating is the right word as well. Now, that is one. But scientific community cannot come up with, and any researcher, this time, thankfully, we don't have professor. Last batch, there were two professors. So they will never agree to calculation if it is only simulation based or assumption based. So they need triangulation of that data. They want to make sure that other people have talked about in different meta studies, researches, etc. And different method, not only my method. So what scientific community has done, they looked into ice sheet. First, they did the dating of that fossil fuel and calculated that how much of carbon content this particular species had that point in time, and they put it on a graph. Second, which was the easiest and can be verified across location, specifically in South Pole, North Pole, or wherever still ice glaciers are available. As the glaciers are melting, we are getting a new level of exposure. And it is very easy to capture that ice, check how much a carbon content it has. See how scientifically they have proven, and now you will trust this data is possible. First of all, they have calculated the life of that ice sheet through carbon dating. And secondly, they have established that how much of carbon content at that point in time it had. And then they plotted this data. So it is not imaginary data. It's not only a assumption, but it is also triangulated and then got established. And then only scientific fraternity accepted and produced in several reports. It's not one report, thousand reports. In lakhs we have. IPCC is one body. How many of you know IPCC had a chairman which was Indian origin? Unfortunately, that person was caught in a Me Too moment and died as well. How many of you know his name? Very famous guy based out of Delhi. Unfortunately, he died his own death because he got stuck in a conspiracy which was totally bad for him. And he lost all his credibility. And eventually, India lost a major scientist in our community. Have you heard Pachori, Mr. Pachori, Pankaj Pachori? Not Pankaj Pachori, Pankaj Pachori, right?
Yes. Yeah, Terry, he was president of Terry.
Terry,
Teddy,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
head of the Teddy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He was a part of Terry and he was also part of some point in time of IPCC. And then he caught in the whirl of some unwanted stuff. Some people say it was a complete conspiracy, it was a planted stuff. Some people say he made some mistake. There is no smoke without a fire, so maybe possible. But point here is we lost a major credible authority in our own country because of such kind of events. Now coming back to our story, so they have established this fact. The challenge here in this fact, if you see the graph properly, you will see there are several mountains has come and gone down. But the challenge remains with, give me 1 second. Hi, Sudarshan. Yeah. So this is what the evidence which has come in form of carbon dioxide. So there are a lot of hills and valleys. And the reason of hills and valleys, of course, at that point in time, also carbon emission was happening. It's not only the human factor which emits the carbon, and that was the realization that nature itself has a huge carbon emission through volcanic eruption. Yeah, through different and or big processes, even sea emits carbon sometime, and all that accumulates in atmosphere and creates those hills. But the problem came when humans started burning fossil fuel after 1911. You see, the spike has never come back. And that addition we are concerned about in climate change. We are not concerned about anything. We are not blaming only human. We know that nature itself also produces carbon dioxide or greenhouse gases. But the problem came when we started consuming one part of energy which was totally changing the ecosystem. And that is the fossil fuel burning effect, which started Industry 1.0 from the steam engine and railroad development. till Industry 5.0, when data centers are real or cryptocurrency are real energy guzzlers and creating a massive amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere through the chip development, which creates this different combinations of HFCs and HCFCs, yeah, as well as other compound which was CFCs. After 1958, we have even crossed that threshold of being neutral, and we started seeing impact on our earth temperature. Ravindran, after that, the earth temperature has started changing. In 2020, we observe it has already crossed 1.1 degrees Celsius to its pre-industrial level, which is before 1911. Actually, 1870 is that date. Which, of course, everybody has a different date to talk about, but IPCC takes that as a predated stuff. And then it became a major topic, and everybody accepted that. And nature has a effect. How many of you have seen in time of COVID, actually all animals came on road, the pollution was gone stuff. Anyway, we were not concerned about pollution at that point in time, but the weather got automatically clean. So nature has a tendency to recuperate and find its way back to support humanity. But we should take awareness of what we are doing wrong, specifically in terms of burning the fossil fuel and making sure that CO2 level doesn't come down. Now we have more than 448 particle per million. That's the status. And here there is another debate, which I'm not going to go into, where people think that particle per million, right? In 4 dots in the full screen. Full screen is good. Let's live in that full screen. They don't understand that 4 dots is that blot, which we say Chand pe Daag. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Ravindran. You had a question there.
I want to add point like the new GHG audit NF3. It was found that the solar panels during manufacture of solar panels and even the
That was.
semiconductors also emits.
Yeah,
Now we are going towards renewable energy, and at
right.
the same time the NF3 is also there. Just a fact
No, no,
I want to
it's a
share.
fact. It is a fact. It is a fact. But only thing is, which criminal is good or bad? A criminal who is just stealing your money, or the criminal who comes with a gun, give your money, or I will make you dead then and there. Which one is lethal? Lethal is
Correct.
the second one, right? So
Correct.
still we are saying, okay, let's live with the chore. Let's avoid the Daku. Are you with me? This is the game right now. Industry is playing with not
Yeah,
only
yeah, yeah.
solar panels, but also with electric vehicle. Yeah, same situation. Lithium ion batteries are massively polluting batteries. Yeah. So, but of course, question is daily, yeah, एक time. Solar wafers are one time. Coal power generated power plants is everyday business. So that's the decision we have to make. And if we can increase this lifespan of solar panel, game will change. And that's why people are shifting, investing, putting a lot of money. Means country like America has put 300 billion dollars under IRA Act of 2022, which later has been withdrawn. I mean, still it has not been withdrawn, but it is about to get withdrawn. But it's very difficult to get withdrawn because uh, Mr. Tesla has a long stake in that. So hopefully it doesn't happen. Point here is business is dirty, but at least we have a lesser devil than the monster. Yeah, that's the game we are playing. Let's listen in the another climate change evidence. Yeah. Is the screen visible? Anyone can you confirm?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Video is running.
Yes,
And video is running, right?
yes.
Video could not see.
Oh, okay. Video is not being seen on your screen?
No.
No, sir.
Okay,
No,
okay.
Yeah.
it's not
No, no, no.
visible.
Okay, fair, fair, fair. Let me try.
Blank screen.
No worries, no worries. Let me try once. Optimize video sharing. Let's see if it works. No, it is not working. Okay, let me stop sharing. So, is it visible now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
So what we are
Yes,
seeing
sir.
on your screen right now is the Arctic ice, which has started melting. Okay. And this is the data which has been collected live from satellite. So it is not me telling you, or a scientist is putting his theory, triangulating and telling you. It's a live captured data. Okay. Every month, every day, European satellite as well as American satellite has watched over this forming and deforming Arctic ice, and you will see the white ones is reducing. What it means that the ice age is becoming lesser and lesser. So older ice are melting faster than new ice are getting created. That's what this graph is showing, which shows that the earth is getting warmer and warmer, right? And this data is collected by NOAA, climate.gov. It's a famous website which people refers to understand climate action. Now, anybody has a doubt on this that glaciers are melting? If you have a doubt, say yes, and I will give you another evidence, Indian context, so you will believe it that it is really happening. Anyone? You think you have a doubt that glaciers are melting, means the older ice sheets are melting now and melting much, much faster than the normal circumstances. If you have a doubt, and nobody's asking, still I'm telling you, go and check in 2023. We had an event called GLOF event, GLOF. Check it out about it. And this is your homework. Tomorrow, anyone before starting the class can talk about it for 1 minute. What exactly was that event? How it impacted Indian society, specifically in northeastern state, and how one of the fallout of this event has even created some of the largest thermal power plants to go bankrupt. Of course, this was not GLOF event, but it was related event in 2024, which has created and proven a fact that climate change is a reality. And in India, we are facing it daily basis. Okay. Now, third evidence is the evidence which is coming from the sea level rise, rising sea level, and deterioration of our land is a fact. And this fact you should try to find on the internet. And that's another assignment if you are interested in this area, you should be doing is finding a lady with a hand pump in Odisha, which requires a rope to pull out the water. This event was specifically captured by Hindustan Times when, and this was the aftermath of one of the tsunami which has badly hit Odisha at that point in time, the coastal region of it, where 8 kilometers of the area has been impacted and nearly 800 meters has gone inside the sea. So a lot of villages got exposed, and in that exposure, this village specifically where this photo was taken has shown that there was only one, uh, you know, uh, क्या बोलते हैं उसको नलकूप tap, not tap. I just forgot now. So there was a hand pump, right? Hand pump. Now this hand pump got exposed so much so, and this was only hand pump in that village, that people are fetching water by pulling a rope because approximately now 3 meter height, 10 to 15 feet above the ground, the hand pump has gone. Yeah. So they have no other option. So they are using that. And that's the reality of sea level is changing. Yeah. And it's changing because the glaciers are melting, water level is rising, and heat is doing that. And this is that statistics which scientist has calculated when they have provided that ocean heat level, The latest measurement in January 2025, which is not there in the picture, is 360 plus 2 jettajoules. Jettajoules is that number in which they measure the how much of heat is getting emitted from the ocean. Now, about 90% of the global warming is occurring in sea, oceans, especially not sea. The oceans are facing the massive problem here. Heat is stored in ocean causes its water to expand, and this expansion, which is responsible for one third of one half of global sea level rise. So, are you getting my point? There is a heating happening in the sea because of the temperature rise and the earth getting warmer, and that is pushing, right, water को आप बॉयल करते हो तो वाटर एक्सपांड करता है, उसके मॉलिक्यूल एक्सपांड करते हो, गैस बन जाता है. इतना तो सबने मालूम है, अगर साइंस नहीं भी आता हो तो भी आता है. And that is the reason the water gets it start expanding, and that becomes that is the reason of one third of global sea level rising right now. Okay, as the water is expanding. Now, the year 2023 was that year where ocean has recorded the warmest year, and after that we are breaking all the records. So every year is the warmest year. Now, which climate change impact worries you most is my question to you after seeing these three levels: the rising sea, the food shortages which is happening because of CO2 level rising, or extreme weather. Which one makes you most afraid or gets you worried? Anyone? Actually, सबने आंसर करना चाहिए. Tell me one factor out of these three which you think, because of the climate change, will be most worrisome. Rising sea level, food
Rising
shortage.
sea level.
Somebody said rising sea level. Raja says, okay. Anybody else? Or everybody agrees to him? Kashika.
Sea level.
Or even Tanmay says that. Okay, Kashika.
One of the effects of climate change is also change in temperature, like the heat, increase in heat. That is also one of the concerns now. I mean, people like us who are staying uh in flats, I think it is still easier for us because we have access to AC. But then there are, of course, there's a community
Correct.
that gets exposed to it.
Correct, absolutely. And massive population still doesn't or cannot afford a air conditioner, right? So their livability is getting tougher and tougher. They are adjusting, but it is the same. Have you heard a story of frog? You want me to just recite it for next 30 seconds? Anybody who wants to listen in the story? How many of you want to listen to the story? Quick, yes, no, maybe. Frog का story कितने को मालूम है? कसिका को मालूम है, okay?
नहीं स्टोरी नहीं
You
मालूम है
want to
मुझे,
hear?
भी सुन.
Okay, okay. Ravindra wants to hear. If I will have four people, I will tell that story. Quick one, 30 seconds, just to give you the context where we are living, in which world we are living. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of people are writing. Tanmay says, no, sir. I don't want to hear a story. Okay. You don't want to hear a story? No problem. Anybody who wants
That
to?
is my childhood fear.
Okay. Okay.
Actually, that time it's a lot of horror story I heard about that time.
Or
That's why I
you
feel
do
fear
not
about
want to hear. This is also a horror story, but as you are afraid of it, let me get your fear out of it and tell you the
that.
story.
Definitely, sir.
The story goes like this, that a frog gets into the pan somehow, and that pan was actually on the gas stove. Actually, वो तो story ऐसा है कि मतलब every city has its own way to tell it. But point is, he went into that pan thinking, oh, I got a space with the water. And suddenly somebody started the boiling of that water, the pan water. You know what first thing Frog did? He thought, okay, the water is getting warmer. So let me adjust myself. So he did little bit a small jump inside the pan, but did not move out, thinking that, okay, it's just warming little bit, doesn't matter. Let me adjust myself. I thought I'm in house. Weather should be calm, cool, but unfortunately, even inside the house, water is getting warmer. Then temperature went from 20 degrees centigrade to 40 degrees centigrade. He thought, okay, now it's getting really warmer. I'm finding it difficult to live here. Let me find some other city. Let me find some other pan. Yeah, he was thinking, and meanwhile the temperature went to 40 to 60 degree. And then he wanted to jump out of it. He could not. The reason is his muscle started to fail him. It was already exhausted, right? And this story is it's an anecdotal story, but point is this is how the humans are. We are trying to adjust, adopt, and that's our nature, right? Either we do fight or flight, and that's why I said read Homo sapiens by Noel Hariri, and he talks about it. This is how our minds are shaped over millions of years, from chimpanzees to the level of human being. And that's why we always do that without realizing the fact when we will try to jump out of it and thinking it is business as usual. Yeah, another term which you write down in your notebook every time you will be using it. We are making that mistake. Okay. So even though the temperature has risen from 20 to 40, it's a complete alarm that there is something really going wrong. And then when it will jump from 40 to 60, it's only additional 20%, actually 50%. The 20 to 40 is 100% jump in the temperature. But I didn't count it. Why? Because I can adjust. But when it goes even 50% from here, I will have a problem, which I'm not realizing today, that my muscle will fail for me to adjust and adopt, and I will be there, and then in 100 degree, I will be fried, at least boiled, which Chinese can at least eat it with all relishing it. So point is, let's not do that, at least in human life. Understand the situation and adopt where it is required, but change your stance when it is changing, when the change is required. Now let's go to the next part where we will be learning about greenhouse gases. First, what is that effect? Second, the gas itself, why it matters, how it matters. And then we finally look into the last part of discussion with Paris Agreement, etc., why they have been covered there. Now, now let's look into greenhouse gas effect first. Now, okay, fair. Let me continue now. Greenhouse gas effect, I always explain with a simple analogy. The analogy is this. Two analogy let me give you. So people who are really traveled all across world, they know, they must have seen in suburban areas, mostly there are greenhouses. How many of you have seen that in your life? Have you seen greenhouses in your life? Most of us, right? If we have traveled even in suburban areas. Town में भी होता है अब तो. Greenhouse gas
Nurseries also keep
industry
that.
also has greenhouses. Absolutely.
Nursery.
Nurseries also have. Nursery is the very good example. Nursery in every city you will find. Yeah. Very
Because
small.
we also do that in our home to protect the plants during extreme
Prepare the
heat.
plant where you want to control the temperature. But of course, greenhouse gases are a little more technical than that, which requires temperature control. Yeah. For that particular crop to grow properly. Generally, in the case of pan, beetle, etc., you'll find greenhouse gases. Rooftop gardening as well, Tanmay. Absolutely. People use it all across now. If you have seen that, you have to understand the purpose of greenhouse. This green seed doesn't make it greenhouse. Yeah. The green seed doesn't employ the greenhouse effect. The green seed actually is that seed which allows sun rays to go inside, warm your layer of the earth which you want to get warmed, and your trees to soak the you know photo uh, photo and do the photosynthesis, right, or capture the photon from the sun ray. But the real effect of the greenhouse starts after that, and that stage is radiation. When your earth radiates it back, that time that green seed acts as a greenhouse. And actually that is why it should be called greenhouse, but people say because it's a greenhouse. Now what it happens here exactly, of course, that is a small plastic film, right? It's not a major stuff. which can stop all the heat going outside. But it still capture a part of heat which I require for my crop or my vegetation or my plant. And that is enough for my plant to survive and grow properly. That particular seed, in the comparison of our earth, is atmosphere. Okay, it allows all the sun good part, specifically certain, if you know, we measure in terms of waves, right? Uh, it captures up to there, and the right hand side graph shows you. And how it happens? Here you don't have that film, right? The plastic film, but here you have gases which acts as a either trapping agent or reflecting it back to the earth. So that is why there are two times you will see on the right hand side that once sun rays hit your earth, goes back in atmosphere, and these molecules, specifically the greenhouse gases, these ones reflect it back or captures some part of the heat. And we need it. This greenhouse effect, we need it. For what? For the purpose of gases, for the purpose of that our atmosphere remains as much warm as that humanity can survive in it. The earth atmosphere, which traps the sun heat or sunset, warming the planet, without it, earth average temperature would be around negative 18 degrees Celsius. Negative 18 degrees Celsius. Yeah, you can't survive in that scenario means for long term. Of course, there are part of on our earth where people are surviving in minus 40 degree. But I'm saying that it will not be a normal life which we thrive upon. Okay, so greenhouse gases are required. The problem with these gases are when human start emitting excessively. Why? Here you need to understand there are two types of greenhouse gases. One is the natural occurring and second is human generated. Natural occurring, of course, is in form of water vapor, which is not a greenhouse gases, but it still gets noticed because there's a maximum amount there. Then you have carbon dioxide. Then you have CH4, water vapor, generally the sea level, that process, right, where the clouds are formed. That's why that gets noticed and has the largest amount. But you have CO2 also coming out, CH4 coming out. Tell me, what is the major source of CH4? We have already learned, I believe, in even today's program. But if we have not, anybody can just recite for me.
Agriculture.
Animal husbandry.
Animal husbandry, agriculture, these are the major sources, right, for
And
CH. Sorry?
landfill gases also. Landfill gas. The
Slaughterhouse.
scientific or sanitary landfill gas.
Landfill gases emitting also majority of the time CH4. Somebody else was also telling?
Slaughterhouse.
Sorry?
Slaughterhouse.
Slaughterhouses, animal, of course, correct. You are right there as well. For sure. So these are the few sources where from CH4 comes. Then comes
I think, sir, any kind of waste like our municipal solid waste or hazardous waste, those are the methane emissions there. I guess,
okay.
if I'm not wrong.
We will see where from it is coming. That's our today's task. We will see that what all sources are possible on Earth. Of course, there is every day there is a new source, but the major ones we will learn and close it. Yeah, that's our target for today. So that is the naturally occurring, and then you have a human generated. That human generated most lethal ones are PFCs, HFCs, SF6, NF3, nitrogen trifluoride, and CCl4. Now these are the major ones, and you can see why they are of our concern. And this number is little bit dated because it gives you 76% of carbon dioxide. But what we are talking nowadays, carbon dioxide is around 71.6%. And then you have methane 18%. So methane has really grown fast enough. It remains there for last 10 years, around 18% to 20%, but it still remains a concern for humanity. Nitrous oxide is around 3 to 5%. Sulfur dioxide is 7. And CFC, HFC, sulfur dioxide is of course not greenhouse gas, but it is also counted as a naturally occurring stuff as well as humanly produced. And then you have CFC, HFCs, which is around 1 to 3% now. Now, CO2 level has risen. Another fact which we need to understand and know is that CO2 level has risen 50% since our industrial revolution, which is causing the problem. You saw that, right? 1958, we reached to 300. Before that, we were around 200 ppm. Now we are above 448. Yeah, so that's the challenge we are trying to address. And CO2 is a celebrity of the GHG, at least you can understand by seeing this graph, right? It's a celebrity of the GHG, Shahrukh Khan of the greenhouse gases, and methane is a stealthy villain. It is a stealthy villain that who is the best villain right now? Anybody know? I know Amrish Puri in my time. Of course, not my time when I was kid. We are DDLJ period people. We are dated people, right? So DDLJ everybody knows, right? Or there are some Gen Zs who never heard about DDLJ or Gen Alphas. Movie. I'm talking about movie here. Little bit digression. How many of you have watched this movie? I know a lot of you must not be watching in the movies. You might be fond of your Gujarati movie, your Tamilian movie. Okay, few of you have watched. Okay, good to know that. But how come nobody has watched Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge or DDLJ? You have never heard. Hello, this is
Yeah,
a
the abbreviation I didn't know, but I watched
Acha,
the
acha, acha. Abbreviation. Okay, okay. Abbreviation is a millennial stuff. We were the abbreviating people. We used to find a pride in making shorter. But now Gen Alpha and Gen G loves to make a new word, spooky. There are several words now. How many of you know Pookie? Have you heard Pookie? Then we don't have Gen Alpha this time, it looks like. So this is the first unique batch. We don't have anyone, neither millennials nor Gen Alpha. Okay. So point here is that a stealthy villain is methane, and only dairy cow emits 200 liter of methane daily. So drinking milk is sometimes lethal as well for planet Earth. But most lethal industry right now is, anybody can guess which is the most lethal industry? Which emits carbon dioxide and methane like anything. Guess. Try to guess. Okay, we have covered cement, we have covered steel. Are
Energy,
Rajni ji is saying dekha hai bhai. Sorry.
energy.
Energy is carbon dioxide. Yeah, but with methane is only one sector which leads.
It's growing, sir.
automobiles.
Agriculture only.
Sorry,
Manufacturing.
nahi,
Automobiles.
nahi.
Agriculture
Growing, sir.
only.
It is not agriculture, the meat industry, to be specific. The meat industry is the most polluting industry in terms of carbon dioxide and CH4 together. Okay. So it's not,
Tannery,
sorry,
tannery, tannery industry or leather
tannery,
industry.
all are part of animal husbandry and the value chain, right? So meat is eventual that culprit which starts all this industry eventually. अगर मीट नहीं बनेगा तो टैनरी के लिए कोई अलग से निकाल के आपका जूता चप्पल नहीं बनाने वाला है अब तो वेजिटेबल बेस्ड लेदर ऑल्सो हैज कम अर्लियर वी यूज टू से इट वाज सिंथेटिक उसका नाम था कुछ अब उसको वेजिटेबल बेस्ड बोलते हैं है तो वही घटिया मीन्स इट्स अ लोअर फॉर्म ऑफ द लेदर राइट बट रैक्सीन राइट हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू हैव हर्ड अबाउट रैक्सीन which was another synthetic material which used to
Yeah.
या अभी भी चलता है बट नाउ दे से इट इज अ
Handbags they make it
हैंडबैग्स
commonly.
यूज होता है and now people say it's a vegetarian based leather yeah so new terms new ways
Just I want to add fact the algae and
algae
mushrooms.
absolutely
It's called mycelium is a element which a lot of brands are using mycelium based uh, leathers for leather
correct.
goods. Yeah.
Algae is a new startup's, a love child. They love it and they manufacture all kind of leather from there. And just you have to, you can do it in small plants as well. Nowadays, algae, you can have even in one bedroom house, you can develop algae and convert, dry it up and make a leather out of it. So it's a startup brainchild which they are marketing and they are saying it's a vegetarian. So
And
algae.
even textile dyes also they have started making using algae.
Problem is of course, algae is good stuff to have, but algae has its own disadvantages as well. If you have worked in ocean industry, and we had last batch, a guy who was doing research on oceanography and ocean related. He was doing masters and then PhD in that, and he has joined our program. And he was talking about that bloom algae is a phenomena in ocean. When algae reaches, look, river algae is different than the ocean algae. First, we have to understand. Have you seen illuminating ocean areas where people go for um, nowadays there is tourism in India also we have internationally of course we have where the in night you will find illuminating sea portion of sea is illuminating, and this is a
Yeah.
part of algae as well.
It becomes blue infrared. Bioluminescence.
Bioilluminate
Bioluminescence. Yeah.
seabeds. Now, that is also part of algae. But the problem comes when you have a bloom algae, which is a kind of tide mechanism where it kills all the living entity around it. Right. So if it goes out of hand, then it is a problem. So people are doing it at a smaller scale, not at a larger scale. Uh, I always believe in a theory that if there is a good exist, there will be bad attached to it. 100%. The only differentiator will be the good is half or 0.1% extra, like in American election, right? American election never happens 70-30, 80-20. It always happens on decimal points. Somebody got the extra decimal from, Democrat to Republican, and they win. Similarly, in yin and yang theory, if you are able to control your negative side, or you are able to control that negative part of the good part, because good part will be always with bad, you are winning. The moment you let it happen, the bad part, let it control you, bad things are happening. Yeah, that's the only difference. And that's why I believe that even though something looks very good, try to see that the negative parts remain in control. Okay, till the time you can manage it, you are a human and you are surviving in right way. uh, Whoever assumes that world is only good, people call them optimist, but they also know that world is not only good, there are some bad elements to it. Coming back to our discussion, that is why cutting beef consumption is a climate win. Okay, that's what I was trying to establish. I'm not saying anybody who is eating beef is their choice, their way of living life. But if you avoid it, you will be better sustainability proponent. Now let's take some basics of our international agreement so that I can establish a fact for greenhouse gases. And those will be Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement. Let's take Kyoto Protocol first. Now, uh, Kyoto Protocol talks about, by the way, how many of you know it was a major failure? And I have already referred that in today's program by counting a story of, tell me the story of why Kyoto Protocol failed.
The Russian gas slowly
Absolutely, the
burning.
hot air. Very good, Tanmay. Hot air was that concept which has failed it. Yeah, people have started misusing it. And second major failure, which everybody accepted, was that industrialized nations were pushed in the corner, which they didn't like. So once they realized the fact, they declined to follow all the standards. And the moment you do that, the standards get diluted, your treaty gets diluted, and then other party also gets out of it. Now, what are the key aspects of Kyoto Protocol when we are understanding our carbon accounting? We'd start from the gases which it covers. So as you can see, they only covered 6 gases. It started with CO2, methane, CH4. So this was the international consensus under a binding agreement that these are the gases which we should be using. Okay, which include nitrous oxide N2O, hydrochlorocarbons, which is HFC, perfluorocarbons, which is PFC, and sulfur hexafluoride. Nitrogen trifluoride was added to the second compliance period of Kyoto Protocol. There was a first period starting from 2007, 5 to 15, they say. And then in the second period, which was 10 to 15, they added during 18th conference of parties, COP18, which happened in Doha, nitrogen trifluoride also should be added here because it is as lethal as any other gases in the GHG emission. Clear? Did you get it? This concept very clear? When nitrogen trifluoride was added, which conference of party? Answer. जितना बोलेंगे
COP 18.
18, COP 18. Yeah. Second compliance period of Kyoto Protocol. Of course, Paris Agreement came after 3 years. When they put the nail on the coffin, they accepted all the seven. Now, targets were set in Kyoto Protocol, where it was required that industrialized nation, Appendix A में सारे industrialized nation को list किया गया था. They were supposed to reduce GHG emission by 5% below 1990 level. So they have not given this Kyoto Protocol never gave them a task to reduce pre-industrial level. Pre-industrial level was accepted only in Paris Agreement. Of course, before that, they started debating, discussing. Agreement was there, but there was no formal treaty to it. Formal treaty only came into Paris Agreement. That's why it became very famous. Okay. Now, in target of Kyoto Protocol was similar, where they said 5%. Below 1990 levels of GHG emission, people should achieve between 2008 after implementation, which was 2007 when the treaty was formally signed, and 2008 to 12 was the period where they were supposed to do it. Monitoring was another aspect which got introduced in Kyoto Protocol, where countries were monitored for recorded emission, that how much they are recording, how they are recording, and is it authentic or not. And that's why Kyoto Protocol became the basis for different new carbon accounting frameworks, including ISO 14064, right? And then they have divided into three different country groups, which I have already told you. There was Appendix 1, which is developed nation, industrialized nation. And Annexure 2 was transitional nation, which was supposed to reach development. And they were China, etc. And then there was a non-Annexure 1 list, which was developing nation. Timeline was, it was adopted in 1997, entered into force in 2005, and then superseded by Paris Agreement, which was agreed in 2015, signed in 2016. Paris Agreement 2015 is that particular emission where net zero emissions were agreed. That everybody should not talk about 5%, 10% annual, 5 year. Let's forget all that. Let's agree to net zero. We should not emit any carbon dioxide from my country. In 2015, 196 countries did the unthinkable, which was failing on previous 3 to 4 conference of party. In 2015, finally, they agreed on something. The Paris Agreement was born, and delegates cheered it, which you can see in front of you. Francis Hollande, all these famous people, you can see it there. And when the gavel dropped at 7:26 p.m., this is the place, etc., etc. But the real work began from there. Okay, night 7:26, this was signed. Did you know that all current pledges are met under 2015? But we still hit 2.7 degrees centigrade, far above 1.5 degrees centigrade. Even though we follow all the pledges, you cannot, if business as usual has happened, okay, then we reach to 3.7 to 4 degrees Celsius centigrade above pre-industrial level. What is the threshold here? 1.5 degree. How much I will achieve if I will not agree to any of these pledges which is signed under 2015? What will I will what will I be reaching to? I will be reaching to 3.7 degrees centigrade or 4 degrees centigrade above industrial level. Just running my company, my country as a business as usual. BAU is that terminology. Even though you accept all the pledges, because there are a lot of variation has happened. Otherwise, nobody was ready to sign. Still in 2015, France has forced others to sign by accepting all of their requirement. most of the requirement. Okay, there are a lot of here and there in the document. And if even though you agree to that, accept it, whatever pledge you are doing, still we will hit 2.7 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial level. So you can understand it's not that effective. But what they have done, as a classic example, that broader area they have not compromised with. What does that mean? That I still want that you do something and reach to 1.5 degrees centigrade above industrial level by 2050. And once that happens, then only we'll be really living in a better world. Tashika, you have a question. Go ahead.
Like you're saying that they actually forced it, then why did now US has actually moved out of Paris Agreement? Why it was not mandated that you need to take a consensus of other countries who are part of this Paris Agreement before moving out of it, and US being the major contributor, why they have allowed them to actually move out of agreement?
Okay, so there are two parts to your question. One is the forced it. So France has forced it diplomatically by accepting their changes in the document. Now, what is an agreement? Agreement is a binding document which once you sign it, you accept it. But there are clauses inside it which allows you to play with it, which everybody played at that point in time, in signing point in time as well, which allow them, they can leave anytime they want, they can come in anytime they want. Another example which last class was debating was this, that okay, they have agreed net zero to be achieved by 2050, then why China to 2060, why India 2070? Tell me why. Anyone? If it was forced, everybody signed a binding agreement, how it was allowed that I can take of my choice? And also tell me, when Mr. Modi has signed 2070 and given that famous speech in conference of party, after that he has not gone there. Which year that happened and which was that conference of party? Okay, go ahead.
I think
When you wanted to
I
speak.
think I think they will know the scenario of their country own country. That's why they are agreed on their country. It will be covered by 2050 or 2070 like that. I
Yeah,
guess. If I'm
because
not
there
wrong.
was a clause allowing
Yes.
to the countries to, okay, I am allowing you, you sign. My France concern was because this was failing since 2018. I mean, of course, COP 18 has failed. Before that, your Kyoto Protocol has failed in effect. So people were forced to agree something. So France interest was, let me get it signed. What was the signing? That let's agree to a date where we will make sure that we reach to net zero. First target. Second target, every country will try to adhere with 1.5 degrees centigrade, limiting the global warming as a country responsibility, as a COP party altogether. They should take a responsibility that global warming should be limited to 1.5 degree above pre-industrial level. Pre-industrial level is keyword. Never forget, write it down somewhere. And keep it well below, another keyword, well below 2 degrees centigrade. Always remember these two terms. A lot of people do here also jungling. Okay. Now, this is the main goal of Paris Agreement. But this goal will force country to adopt 2050. So it was a chicken egg situation. So they played with the clauses there. What they did, they allowed a new framework called NDC, Nationally Determined Contribution, where countries set their own emission reduction targets, review them every 5 years under COP arrangement. So there is a UN body which will be watching you, whether you are doing it right, wrong, not like hot air scenario. It will be verified, validated by your corporate body, UNFCCC, and raise your ambition slowly towards 2050 target. That was the clause which allowed country, first of all, to adjust themselves, relax little bit, and accept the agreement. Wealthier nation committed to fund the poorer nation. This was the third argument which has happened. This is the outcomes which we need to know is the wealthier nation has committed, and even in the Kyoto Protocol time they have committed that they will fund the poorer country who are facing the ire of developed countries because they developed. They burn the fossil fuel at the expense of country who didn't had the money at that point in time. For example, India, it was looted completely. 1947, British Commonwealth, empire has left India, giving them a blank book without having money. And then they committed in Kyoto Protocol as well that they will create different funds to support poorer countries to adopt to this climate change. Of course, they can't do anything now because they have already emitted so much of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So they said, okay, I will give you $100 billion in Kyoto Protocol. And in Paris Agreement, they said that they will create a fund. They didn't agree to a number even because 100 billion has been never set in Kyoto Protocol. Nobody paid, contributed to it, right? Tell me when actually the loss and damage fund was, ratified. Anybody who knows? Of course, Rajniji knows, but she is unable to speak today. Yeah. When finally we agreed to L&D, loss and damage fund, in which COP? It happened in COP 29 of Baku. Okay. But the problem remain that they have committed now 200 billion. 1997, 100 billion, you think will be 200 billion today? It will be above $1.3 billion only by adding inflation and the scenarios which we are in today. Because developed countries are still burning fossil fuel. It's not that they have stopped, right? America has actually become the first country now who produces maximum amount of fossil fuel, right? Of course, is third emission which they carry. Scope 1 emission will still remain lower. They are the producer. The usage is the actual greenhouse gas emitter, right? Not the producer. And thereby, America is right now the largest exporter of crude oil. No longer Saudi Arabia's, no longer Dubai Sheikh. It is America. And that's why they are withdrawing. Drill baby drill is also with the climate frill. He wants to take back the climate access. Why? Because they cannot go together. You cannot be a largest scope 3 emitter on the earth, and at the same time you talk about climate change, accepting Paris Agreement, and he knew that. That's why he never promised it, and he took what he is doing what his followers are asking for. His followers are mostly those Texas oil producers, the funders, the lobbyists, whatever you say them in America. You tell them, take their name. So point here is that this was those deviation in the agreement which allowed people to agree first time on earth one common consensus which they followed. And still, even though they follow all the pledges, still we will be 2.7. That's why in 2023, you must have heard the video which I ran in the 3 session that Antonio Guterres is asking that let's take some action. Otherwise, anyway, we are not going to get to 1.5 or 2 degrees Celsius. Now, country agreed to report everything publicly. That's a major outcome there and aligns their financial flow in the work with this objective. Okay. And that's why India, how many of you have watched that Indian diplomat in the COP29 became viral because she stood up against this loss and damage fund because she knew this is useless fund. There is no point having $200 billion, right? But for people who have seen COP28, and both summary will be made available to you tonight, watch that 10-minute video and get updated yourself. If you have not been watching conference of party, these two conference of party will give you enough information that where we stand today. Okay, the summaries are will be provided today in recorded format. Now, country has to report publicly their progress in meeting climate change, climate targets, and ensuring accountability, recognizing differentiated responsibility in terms of nationally determined contribution. This agreement also acknowledges the fact that country has a different responsibility based on their capability, their circumstances in building resilience. Not everybody can build resilience, and resilience is a new terminology in climate science. Without that, you can't survive. So, American companies have started changing their initiatives into climate accent to climate resilience. They are, right? They are downpowering all their initiative. And this focuses their ability to adopt. Yeah, adoption is the major property of Homo sapiens or human being, and that's why we should be following it. Let's go and understand those gases and how they impact. What are we need to be learning in the primary greenhouse gases and their origin. Okay, what are those sources where from they actually come? The first gas, of course, will be carbon dioxide, right? It's a celebrity, so we need to first introduce him in the picture. It is a vital component of atmosphere. Why? Because what you produce becomes a fodder to plants, right? That's how the compensation happens. Not only human being, but natural sources also play a larger role in releasing and capturing CO2. Sea algae, we have already discussed, everybody is now updated about it, is another source of releasing carbon dioxide or even sinking it through algae. Now, carbon dioxide is released through natural processes, specifically from volcanic eruption. Okay, and through human activity as well. And human activity is what we are talking about. We are not talking about natural one, because we know natural system automatically adjusts itself. However, currently in Ethiopia, methane is getting excessively released by one of the active volcano there, which is a cause of concern across world. There is another LinkedIn article on our LinkedIn page which you can read for the same. Even in 2022, when global GHG emission primarily consisted with CO2 resulting from combustion of fossil fuel, amounted to 71.6% of total greenhouse gas emission. Fossil fuels is 71.6%. Natural sources, of course, are listed here in the left-hand side. You can see that volcanic outgassing, forest fire, organic matter burning, natural decay, and aerobic. These are the, and anaerobic, of course, is another process which also releases some kind of gases. Now, these are the natural sources for carbon dioxide emission. And then you have a human sources, which is burning of fossil fuel, creation of cement and transportation industry. Cement and transportation industry also emits human related fossil fuel burning, and then carbon dioxide eventually. Heating is another area which also releases carbon dioxide. Power generation and land clearance. That's why LU means land use and land use change along with forestry became a centerpiece for carbon dioxide emission and greenhouse gases discussion. Clear? Okay, now why CO2 is critical? Is this video is visible to all of you? Can I run it directly from the slide? If it is visible, I will run it from the slide.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
So let's listen in.
CO2. It's the gas we associate with climate change, but it's also needed for life on Earth to function normally. How our planet manages the levels of CO2 is called the carbon cycle. CO2 is released into the atmosphere, for example, by animals' respiration, forest fires, even agriculture. Plants reabsorb the CO2 through photosynthesis. But in the 1800s, that process started to change radically. It started with fossil fuels, sources of energy trapped deep underground from the fossilized remains of plants and animals. For the fuel to power everything from your car, to the furnace in your home or office building, to the plane you take on your next vacation. We owe the modern world to them.
We often describe Earth's atmosphere as a kind of invisible blanket sitting atop Earth's surface.
Matthew Osman is an assistant professor of climate science at the University of Cambridge. He says Earth's atmosphere naturally contains greenhouse gases that make life on Earth possible.
Without CO2, life on Earth actually wouldn't be possible. It's estimated that without carbon dioxide, Earth's surface would be somewhere in the ballpark of 30 to 35 degrees Celsius cooler than it is at present.
But when more CO2 gets released into the atmosphere through human activity, that's when things become problematic. Burning fossil fuel re-releases all the CO2 that was locked underground all those years ago. That CO2 gets lodged into the atmosphere. CO2 is a relatively simple molecule composed of one atom of carbon and two atoms of oxygen. When heat from the Earth's surface gets beamed back into space, it gets absorbed by the CO2 in the atmosphere. As the CO2 absorbs that energy, its molecules move faster and faster. And as they do, they transmit heat energy around to other molecules, causing them to move faster as well. That cycle repeats itself over and over, trapping heat energy and warming the planet in the process. All because of a naturally occurring molecule that's being emitted into our atmosphere at levels that have risen exponentially since the middle of the 20th century.
As we emit more and more CO2, we're going to warm the planet at a faster and faster rate,
fueling extreme weather and making life more expensive and challenging. Kamyar Razavi, Global News.
So this was a short video establishing a fact that why we need CO2 and what exactly happens, why it traps the heat. And you have seen it very simply that the speed of carbon dioxide molecule increases, which creates the heat, right? When you rub your hand, heats get created, right? So similar effect. Now, methane is that another gas which is in hot water, specifically after Stockholm Conference of Party, where there is a pledge signed even by India that we want to control methane emission. But methane has a peculiar aspect, which is that 40% of the methane emission happens from natural sources. Only 60% is happening through human activity. Of course, we need to control the human activity, but leakage from oil, whenever you do the drilling for the oil or extract the oil, along with that methane comes out. Natural gas, same situation. You will find the methane molecules also coming out, along with coal mining. So these are the fossil fuel production based methane emission, which we should be concerned about. Then comes the landfills. Now, organic waste decomposition in landfill releases methane as well. Okay. And that is what Tanmay was talking about when you let your, kachra, to get dried also releases methane if it is in different scenario. Wetlands, another good example of methane emitter where anaerobic decomposition of organic material creates, which actually Tanmay was talking. Termites also create methane gas emissions. So you must be finding them into Malaysia and those marshy land where the termites are a majority problem. So methane production from digestion of these termites creates an issue for atmosphere. Ocean and permafrost is a major source, natural source, okay, apart from marshland and termites, is the area of concern for everyone. So wetland, termites, ocean, permafrost, because permafrost, frozen lakes are very good example of that, or glacier melting is another example, where these methane gas are trapped inside this lake, permafrost, and once they release in very heavy quantity. So release of methane is stored in sediments and thawing permafrost. So these are the two major concerns right now on natural sources we have. Third is fluorinated gases. Now this include a list of gases. Today I will show you AR5 under IPCC, and tomorrow I will also show you, because they have not allowed. I have sent them an email, can I share for education purposes to limited group? They have declined. So I'm converting that into an Excel sheet, and I will show you from the Excel sheet the new guidelines, or you can download it. I will give you the link. You can download it your own self. Because commercial use definitely not allowed. Even for your own purpose, you cannot allow. They have written very clearly. You cannot use it for your own calculation. You cannot reproduce it for any educational purposes as well. But what I want to explain you here is, first, let's understand fluorinated gases. These gases doesn't occur in the natural scenarios. Okay, so this is our induced fluorinated gases, mainly human made. There are some chances in the drilling, etc. Some fluorinated gas gets released, but it's highly unlikely. These gases have no natural sources known to humanity. They have high global warming potentiality, which goes in excess of 1,000 times to 17,000 times. We will see that number statistics in next slide. Fluorinated gases there are four main categories to it. Okay, but in AR6 you have more than 6 categories, which will be also looking. First one is, of course, hydrofluorocarbons, mostly coming out of air conditioner or refrigerants. HFCs, mostly coming from air conditioners. Perfluorocarbon, which is PFC, also part of refrigerant as well as hydrants, the firefighting equipment which you see in your offices. Sulfur hexafluoride is definitely firefighting, which releases it. And then you have a nitrogen trifluoride, which comes from semiconductor, LCD, aluminum industry. Specifically, they release NF3, or even solar wafers. When you manufacture the solar wafers, massive amount of greenhouse gas of nature of NF3 gets released, nitrogen trifluoride. So unlike many other greenhouse gases, fluorinated gases has no significant natural source. Let's establish that fact, and come almost entirely from human related activity. They have a very high potential of global warming, and they are little tricky in nature. Yeah, like unlike carbon dioxide or methane, they have a propensity to either grow very fast as they age, or they subside very fast in atmosphere as they age. So predicting them is also very challenging stuff. Now, if you keep on growing, and why that happens, first you understand fluorinated gases are most stable structure known to humanity. Once you form that gas, you cannot break it easily. It doesn't react with anything. Okay? Means to get it reacted, you have to again bring it back into a man-made atmosphere and then get them dissolved. एक बार सेमीकंडक्टर आपने बना दिया फ्रॉम रेयर अर्थ और क्रिस्टलाइनिंग डिफरेंट मटेरियल, इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू गेट इट डिजॉल्व्ड. या सिंपल में बता रहा हूँ, सिंपल टर्मिनोलॉजी में, बट it is in technical terms we say that it is the most stable structure. It doesn't get react with any other thing, right? And substituent to ozone depletion substances is happening up to 90%. If you see the structure, that how much of these gases are in atmosphere, the first one is the ozone layer depletion, which we say, which is happening. 90% is happening because of it. How many of you are aware now again? Okay, how many of you are aware, first of all, then first time on earth when United Nations has shown it muscle and failed miserably was the time when they have to negotiate with three companies, three well-known US-based companies, US and European-based companies, where they failed to negotiate that they should stop emitting ozone depleting gases like HFC. And which year it was, if anybody can guess. So three questions are there. First question, when United Nations has first time sat with corporates, try to negotiate something and failed miserably. Means they have to negotiate for 3 years to get them agree to start reducing those gases in their production processes. Anybody knows that story? हाँ ना, मे भी कुछ भी लिख दो यार, क्या फर्क पड़ता है.
Is it with carrier company with you and
नहीं
Auto?
नहीं, कैरियर कंपनी नहीं थी. First time I'm saying, so career might be the recent phenomena, but this was the phenomena which is a blot on sustainability. Before even starting sustainability discussion, this has happened. Okay. How many of you know there was a depletion of ozone layer happened? And that was my kids' time. When I was studying, I used to hear ozone has been depleted. We should not go in sun without putting sunscreen, etc. Of course, sunscreen to India में वैसे famous भी नहीं था. But people were talking about it, right? You have to put glasses when you go in peak summer. How many of you have heard about such kind of unique discussions in your life?
Yeah,
There's the ozone hole or something, no?
Ozone hole.
ozone hole. Yeah.
Correct. Absolutely. We learned about that story, right? Do you know this has happened again? Again, it has happened. Are you aware about it? Since 2024, scientists have found another 19-kilometer area being depleted. किसी ने सुना है?
Maybe, sir. Maybe, sir.
Yes.
I don't know.
Just search it. Just Google it. You will find again this is a hot topic. Again, we have lost a part of ozone layer. And now scientists are saying that we never replenished it. That area got replenished where it was, the hole was created, somewhere else it got exposed. Now, point here is in 1980s, after sustainability discussion started and Brundtland Commission has published that report. Report name was, tell me what is the name of the report? Kashika, you answered, right? That Brundtland Commission has prepared that.
Yeah, Brundtland report.
What is the name of that report? There is a book they published called
Uh, Something good, but I'm not able to
Yeah,
recall the
very
name.
famous name. Try to find that as well and post it in the chat box. That's a good learning to have. Now, at that point in time, the book has identified three key areas of improvement, and one of the area was ozone depletion. They wanted to find ways to cover that up. And in that, after publishing of that report, yes, Tanmay, you wanted to speak something.
Our common future or
Our
something like
common future, where the first time
I
word
just searched it and then got.
Good. Our Common Future is that book, which was the report published by Brundtland Commission. She has, she was leading that team who has published that book in 7 years. Yeah, it took 7 years. So not 7 years, it took 5 years, 1983 to 1987. 87, this book got published. And one of the reason of this book was ozone depletion. Once they found out that sustainable development can fill up this problem, they started negotiating with three famous company at that point in time, Kashika. Yes, go ahead, Kashika. You
The
have,
Silent Spring is also somewhere related to it by Rachel Green,
what is
if
that?
I'm not wrong. The Silent Spring, Rachel Green's book. This
Okay.
was immediately after Brundtland report, and while we were having it in masters, they mentioned about it, so we
And
have read about it.
good. This is the advantage of people who comes from. So you are an environmentalist. You are a master's in environmental science.
No, I have done masters in development from Azim Premji University.
Which university?
Azim Premji University.
Azim Premji. Okay, okay, okay. Azim Premji has means completely different syllabus, huh? Those.
Yeah, their approach is quite different. I mean, it's not like teacher student relationship, but more like they used to tell us, I mean, while reading something, don't be critical,
Right.
rather critique like the positive and negative in it.
Right. Critical thinking they promote rather than being critiqued, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, so now Azim Premji, Asoka University, they have a different kind of foundation, including ISP. And of course, the person behind remains the same. Uh, and that's another matter of subject. Of course, not Azim Premji, Asoka University and ISB, Hyderabad. Okay, the person name is very famous. Try to search that as well if you are interested in education. Coming back to this story, so they sat with on the table from with those three companies which were the responsible for emitting HFC at that point in time. Career, uh, we might have become a party because eventually it comes from the refrigerant. But that point in time, three paint companies famous for their production, paint production, were called for this negotiation where UN was not able to convince them for 3 years. Okay. And that became the blot on our sustainability effort before even it got started. Clear? So find out that story, read about it. It's very interesting story. And tomorrow, that's your third minute task. Put it in chat box, put it in your WhatsApp group. That which was those three companies which were involved in this discussion. Okay, so that is related to fluorinated gases. Now let's go to the global warming, global warming potential, GWP. Now GWP is that measure which calculates or measures how much heat a particular greenhouse gas can absorb. How much heat a particular greenhouse can absorb over a specific period of time compared to CO2. So here the matrix in GWP is what unit is CO2. जैसे करेंसी का यूनिट क्या है डॉलर रुपीस वैसे ही ग्रीन हाउस गैस का हीट ऑब्जर्विंग कैपेसिटी का यूनिट है CO2 and when you use that CO2 to calculate how much heat it has absorbed you say you are calculating global warming potential सिंपल कंसेप्ट है ब्रेक कर दो थ्री पोर्शन में एंड यू आर द मास्टर ऑफ दैट कंसेप्ट ग्लोबल वार्मिंग अब कोई भी आपसे पूछेगा आपको प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगा बिकॉज यू नो थ्री डिफरेंट पार्ट्स ऑफ दैट डेफिनेशन द फर्स्ट पार्ट इज दैट इट इज अ मेजरमेंट ऑफ व्हाट इज दिस मेजरमेंट ऑफ इट इज अ मेजरमेंट व्हाट यू मेजर विद दिस जैसे कि you have weights, right? Weights to measure how much mass of certain assets are, certain units are. Similarly, that unit in sustainability is carbon dioxide equivalent that we have learned. And what it means is that each gases, which is a part of the GHG, how much heat they can absorb in terms of carbon dioxide, assuming that carbon dioxide is the unit one, and that's why number one you can see on the screen. So that's the second part. Third part is it is always measured over a period of time. You cannot do it instantly. या जैसे कि हम लोग अपना कोई भी वाटर बॉटल का वेट लेना है, तो अगर वेट लेना है तो आई कैन मेजर इट इमीडिएटली एंड टेल यू द वेट, बट यू कांट डू इट इन greenhouse gases. And the reason is, of course, heating cannot be calculated in one period of time. It has to have a period between certain time, and that's why that timeline is there. On an average, people calculate it on 20-year, 100-year, and 500 years. These are the three ideal measurement. But when tomorrow we will see, and this is AR6 report, this is little dated report. Okay, it is allowed to show. That's why I'm showing you the report, which I can't show. Either I will share the link or I will convert into Excel sheet and bring it tomorrow just to showcase to you that it is not a bigger stuff. Here, we always measure everything into carbon dioxide unit. That's the number is 111. And then you see methane. If you are only measuring in 20 year, my answer will be 72. If I am referring to IPCC book AR5. If I am referring to AR6, these numbers will change. This number is right now on 100 year is 27.2 और 28. सबको इसलिए आप सुनोगे सब बोलेंगे 100 years का मीथेन का, और 100 year is the average stuff. So everybody generally will mention you GWP calculations on 100-year calculation terms, right? So methane ka 25 in AR5. Now it is
Can
20.
you just explain, sir? Can you just explain the AR5 or AR6?
So these are just कैसे आपको बताऊं, मतलब IPCC, have you heard about IPCC book?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now IPCC of course is a body which produces uh, just a minute, which produces a measurement unit specifically in terms of how much of carbon emission is happening. ठीक है, अब AR6 एंड AR5 में डिफरेंस ये है कि साइंटिफिकली दे कीप ऑन रिसर्चिंग ऑन द इमिशन फैक्टर्स देयर. ठीक है, अब वो इमिशन फैक्टर AR5 में जब उन्होंने रिपोर्ट करा था, आई डोंट रिमेंबर द ईयर व्हेन दे रिपोर्टेड इट. ओके, जो नंबर्स उस समय कैलकुलेट किए थे बेस्ड ऑन द साइंटिफिक एविडेंसेस हैड चेंज्ड in latest publication of AR6, and that this difference has come because over a period of time new researches has been done and calculated the potentiality. For example, पहले आप देख रहे हो 25 यहां दिख रहा है, ये एक वर्जन पहले का रिपोर्ट है. जैसे हम लोग कैसे GSM का वर्जन 1, GSM का वर्जन 2 जनरेशन बोलते हैं ना, अपने मोबाइल में हम लोग जनरेशन है, राइट? सिमिलरली इन IPCC का डेटा में भी जनरेशन है, which over a period of time they research and find out whether we are right or wrong, or is this number is changing. So for example, मीथेन का उनको AR5 में जब रिपोर्ट किया था उन लोगों ने कि 100 ईयर में कितना ये हीट ऑब्जर्व कर सकता है एक मॉलिक्यूल, राइट, और 1 ton of that. So they found out it can observe as much as 25 times of carbon dioxide heat potentiality. अब वो नंबर 27.9 है. ठीक है, 27.9 है. तो 3 more units of carbon dioxide it can observe, which has been established and found out recently. And that's what their assessment report of 6th number or generation 6th has produced. Am I clear? Did I answer your question?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So ये मतलब केवल जनरेशन है, AR5 AR6 is a generation, but ये
Got it, sir. Got it.
based on the research, right?
Research.
नाइट्रस ऑक्साइड आप देखोगे तो जनरली स्टेबल रहता है 100 ईयर में, ओनली 500 ईयर में थोड़ा रिड्यूस हो जाता है. क्लियर? CFC देखो, and this is what I was telling you, that there are certain gases which reduces its potentiality over a period of time, like carbon dioxide, methane, उनका absorption capacity deplete होता है. But now just see one more gas, which is the gas called tetrafluoromethane or hexafluoroethane. yeah, you will see these guys get more lethal over a period of time. So more you emit, they remain in the atmosphere for longer period of time, and their global warming potential increases very fast. Sulfur hexafluoride has the similar from 22,800 SF6 goes up to 32,600 over a 500 period. Nitrogen trifluoride has a similar structure. That's why this was also considered as critical gas for our understanding. Now, any confusion here? Any problem here on this slide? Anybody? सबको समझ में आया कि क्वेश्चन आप लोग ऊपर से गया जो
Quite okay.
Tanmay got it. Okay. Now, Tanmay is in government consulting. He works with, you said three abbreviation there. What is the full form of those three abbreviation? Carbon credit मेरे को समझा था. उसके अलावा दो चीज SFZ और SSZ. What is that?
No, sir. That is the SBM, Swachh Bharat Mission and Jal Jeevan Mission, and the truth. In every
मिशन की
aspect,
बात
I am
आप.
doing that.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Fair, fair. Okay. So, anybody else who could not follow, please ask your question. Don't remain shy that somebody is asking very interesting question. I should not intervene. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए हमारे क्लास में. Ravindran, did you follow? Because आप तो उसी इंडस्ट्री से आप भी आते हो.
Yeah.
Okay. Mahima, any confusion?
Yes, sir, I followed. Yes.
Okay, you followed. Anybody who wants me to repeat, you can just say yes in the chat box. If you don't want to unmute yourself, just say in chat box and I will repeat if you could not follow. क्योंकि ये क्रिटिकल कंसेप्ट है और ये मैं रिवाइज नहीं करूंगा क्योंकि ये साइंस है. साइंस इज नॉट माई टास्क इज कमर्शियल साइंस कि इसको हम यूज कैसे करें अपने ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के कार्बन इमिशन को रिकॉर्ड करते समय. It will be always there. Without CO2 equivalent, there will be no discussion in our class. But you don't need to know the exact nature of it. So it's your last time, the last chance to ask me any question. ठीक है, अगर सब आदमी समझ रहे हैं, फॉलो कर रहे हैं तो आई एम हैप्पी. लेट्स मूव ऑन टू नेक्स्ट सेगमेंट. We have already come near to 9. If you allow me 20 minutes, then I can cover one more part, which is part of NDC. ठीक है, we will start with agreements and we will go into NDC. Actually, I will need a class for sure because tomorrow also we will cover that. So choice is yours. You want me to do you want me to start now or start tomorrow?
Can cover it in the continuation.
Okay, so Raja wants to continue. Anybody else? Okay, somebody wants to do it tomorrow. He thinks that there is too much of information overload. Okay. Let me get at least 2-3 people saying yes or no. Okay, Raja also says it's fine. Mahima wants to continue. Paris wants to go. I know. Look, what I want, you do little research. Okay, there is some. Okay, let's not go into new topic, but let me give you the guideline again today for people who are joining, that how you should be working with me for 11 days. If you really want to make success out of it, career out of it, then my expectation from you is that I am taking 2 hour class. You should give me 1 hour extra, minimum 1 hour, maximum 2 hour. इससे ज्यादा मुझे आपका नहीं चाहिए. अब आप कब दोगे? I know all of you are professional. None of you are a student, right? Anybody who is a student, all of you are a professional, right? Mahima, you are also working, correct?
Yes, sir, I'm working.
So all of you are working. And then when I am asking, I feel little bad. But it is my duty to tell you that if you will not dedicate at least 1 hour every day, when I am putting 2 hours with you, this reading will be just a fun side business for you. It will not change anything in your life. Trust me, you can't get out of anything. Why? 3 reasons. First, there will be homeworks. There will be certain tasks which you need to do in your free time. And they have been kept it specifically for free time, because when I'm taking class and you started doing search, it will be futile for you. So what we expect, that these things you note it down in your notebook and or in your computer or in your laptop, iPad, wherever you are making notes. Do make notes. If you are not making notes, my version of thing might not help you. You have to have your version of the same. And that requires just put pointers, okay? Simple pointers for your own self. And those pointers in morning or afternoon, in your lunch time, as we had people who had no time at all. So we said take sutta break of 15 minutes, which anyway you are culprit of if you are a Gen Z or Gen Alpha employees. Yeah, we lament you that you take too much of sutta breaks. Take that break and just go to your notebook and refer it. Yeah, I don't mind if you take sutta or you don't take sutta. I mean, cigarette I'm talking about. It doesn't matter to me. But you read at least 1 hour apart from this class. If you really want to get benefited from this, okay, and you want to get absolutely for memorization, that is essential. Tanmay knows this fact that if you don't revise it on the very next day, first of all, you will be half cooked in the next class. Trust me, you will be the one person who will be not speaking. Why? Because you have no background or you are unable to recall the study concepts. And this is happening because in morning you have not seen your own notes which you have made, or if you are trying to make. And make those notes, simple ones, right? That this means this, kind of. Whatever way you do it, it's your choice. But do look into that. So that's the reason number one. Second, there will be some case study which I will be offloading to you, which you have to prepare and come back to class. So to do that, of course, you need some time. And third, there will be possibility that in 2 hours, some of you might lose interest. I'm not saying, and I have been there. Okay. Even though it's the most interesting class, I lose track of it. My kids disturbs me, or I get a call and I lose a track. And once I lose a track, I lose a track. Simply, I am not following it. In that case, just go and watch that part of the video. Okay, why I have missed this part? Why I am unable to recall? It is essential because every day going forward will be quizzes. You will be scoring badly there and you will be losing the interest furthermore. So it's a cascading effect. So my request to you is allocate that extra 1 hour specifically for next 11 days. After that, I am not coming to you. You are not coming back to me. Okay, it's your life. It will become your motor skill. My target is you get this as a motor skill. Anybody talks about tomorrow climate action, you have something to contribute with. That's how the professional growth happens. People notice you then and there. Okay, this guy is talking this part, means he is knowing little bit more. Let me talk to him. And consulting assignment, job progress, promotion, everything is linked to that specific part where your senior, your client observes this guy understand this as well. So I am in safe hand. Let me give him a chance to perform in that area too. सबको चाहिए कि आप 200% परफॉर्म करो. कौन चाहता है कि 50% आप परफॉर्म करो? टेल मी एनीबडी. क्लाइंट हो आपका इन कंसल्टिंग, आपकी कंपनी का एम्प्लॉय हो, आपके कंपनी में सीनियर हो, एवरीबडी वांट्स कि आप कुछ और करना करना चाहिए, तब मैं आपको अप्रिसिएशन दूंगा, नहीं तो परफॉर्मेंस अप्रेजल नहीं मिलेगा. और वो तभी आएगा जब वो नोटिस करेगा कि यू आर एक्टिव इन दिस फील्ड, यू अंडरस्टैंड इट एंड यू रिस्पेक्ट इट. एंड अगर आप अंडरस्टैंड ही नहीं करते तो आपको काम देके वो अपना बिजनेस थोड़ी डुबाएगा. नोबडी वांट्स टू डू दैट. कोई क्लाइंट नहीं चाहता है कि वो ऐसे आदमी से बिजनेस करे, ऐसे आदमी के साथ बिजनेस करे हु टेक्स हिम टू द डाउन हिल. And how I will know that you know it? By reflecting to such kind of topics which is not your area of expertise, but you understand. या तो ये मोटर स्किल बनने के लिए ये 3 रिक्वायरमेंट है और इसके लिए आपको 1 से 2 घंटे देने होंगे. अभी आप 4 o'clock मॉर्निंग में करोगे जैसे मैंने करा था मेरी स्टडी के टाइम पे, CFA ESG के टाइम पे. आई स्पेंड 2 hours बिफोर माई किड आर अवेकन. उसके पहले करके फिनिश कर लेता था क्योंकि वंस दे आर देयर you can't sit in front of them and study. Impossible. अब तो थोड़े बड़े हो गए, so I can manage. सेकंड, आप दिन में करो. अगर आप सही में नहीं गेट टाइम कर पा रहे हो, आपको टाइम नहीं मिल पा रही है, देन यू डू इट इन डे टाइम, इन योर लंच, ब्रेकफास्ट, वट एवर टाइम यू हैव. गेट दैट हाफ एन आवर एटलीस्ट. वीडियो वॉचिंग उस समय आप कर सकते हो. फोकस काम नहीं कर सकते हो, वीडियो वॉचिंग कर सकते हो. सम क्विजेज अटेम्प्ट कर सकते हो. वो डायमंड मेंबरशिप में तो रजनी जी हैं वगैरह, They do it in that time. They have all the time quizzes to, क्योंकि they have to appear for international exam, so मॉक आने वाले हैं उनके पास, तो वो उस समय सॉल्व कर लेते हैं। ठीक है। बेस्ट इज आफ्टर द क्लास अगर आप बैठ पाओ, टेक योर डिनर एंड यू आर अ नाइट आउल, मैं नहीं हूं इसलिए मैं एक्सपेक्ट नहीं करता हूं किसी को, then you sit after the class and spend 1 hour. Problem will be that 1 hour is that I will not give you the video. Video only comes after 1 hour or next morning. Yeah, once my team is comfortable with the video. So वो वीडियो अवेलेबल नहीं रहती है, so you have to only rely on your notes. Just revise it and close it. दिस इज माई सीरियस एक्सपेक्टेशन। आपको लग रहा होगा क्या बच्चे